Madam Chairman, fellow speakers, when I was a kid in the early 80s, I knew this bloke who lived up the top of Donald Street in Morwell, old Albie Corbett. He was a large framed man with a deep voice, and he was tall, but withered and wrinkled with age. Looking back now, I reckon Albie was in his late 80s or early 90s. I mowed his lawns, if you could even call them lawns, more like a collection of weeds. After mowing both Albie's front and backyards, I'd be lucky if the catcher was half full. It was easy money. Too easy, if I'm honest. Old Albie would always have a cold drink for me if it was hot, or a cup of sweet tea. And I felt obliged to sit and listen to his stories. It was half an hour to mow the lawns and 2 hours of Albie's yarns. He'd led a colourful life, a unionist and a boxer, passionate stories of hard-won fights for the rights of the working man, and tales of brutal and bloody fights won and lost in the boxing ring. With a tear in his eye, Albie would sometimes speak fondly of his wife who died years back. He lived alone up there on the hill. He kept his house spotless. His garage was spotless too. He had an old leather punching bag hanging from the rafters in that garage. Albie taught me how to throw a punch into it. And over a few years and a million cups of tea, old Albie and I, well, we became mates. Sometimes, if I was going past, I'd just pop in to see how he was. He'd let me use his tools to fix my bike, and I'd get him bread and milk from the Rintall Street shops. Every fortnight or so, when he wanted his lawns cut, old Albie would call my mum. I'd come home and mum would say, "Albie called and wants you to cut his grass when you get a chance." Off I'd go. But one day I came home to the news that old Albie had passed on. Gently, they said, in his sleep. I'd only been up to Albie's place the previous weekend. He'd seemed all right. For the first time in my life, I felt the pain of loss. And because I had to go to school, I didn't make it to Albie's funeral, and I never saw him again.